Welcome on in, everyone, to They're Not From Philly podcast. This is our opening day preview pod. Obviously, opening day is next Thursday, the big day. It's a really exciting day, America's pastime and all that. And it's now become sort of a lot of British baseball fans' pastime as well, especially for me. And obviously our friends over in the UK Phillies podcast as well, and a lot of other fans, of all the other teams in the MLB. So it's a really exciting day. I can't wait. It's a nice start time for me, 8 p.m. in the UK, which is really good. So it'll finish just before my bedtime. So that's really good for me. So yeah. So obviously I'm with the full crew again. Just in Tennessee, Corey from Columbus, and Drew from Westchester, guys. Thanks for hopping on early again this morning. Obviously, it's 9 o'clock for you guys in the US. So thanks for hopping on early for me. So as you can see in my background, Christopher Sanchez has got the nod for opening day start. Obviously, Zach Wheeler's not going to be quite ready yet, and obviously we've seen the rotation and how that's going to look. It's going to be Christopher Sanchez, Aaron Nola, Jesus Luzardo, and I think it's Taiwan Walker and Andrew Painter then rounding it off. And obviously then, it looks like they're probably going to do like a 6-man rotation. So you could get, maybe a bullpen game, seeing how quick, obviously they can get Chris Sanchez back. And I think Justice dropped off. He'd be back now. I'll start with you two guys. How do you guys feel about Chris Sanchez obviously getting the nod? It's obviously the predictable move, I guess. They maybe could have gone with Jesus Luzardo, but I think obviously from how Chris Sanchez, became the fill-in, starter for us in the playoffs last year. He took the job, took the pressure on his shoulders, did a fantastic job. So how you guys feeling about Chrissy Sanchez getting the start on Thursday? It's exciting.
Go ahead, Drew. You more of a
Drew,
baseball
go on,
man
go.
than I
Corey,
am.
you're the leadoff hitter. I'll let you go first, or if
Oh, go
Justin's
ahead, Cole.
back.
Yeah, go on, bro.
No, you're good. I just didn't
Good
know who
call.
to
Good
start
call.
with. So, I'm actually excited. So Christopher Sanchez, obviously last year he developed into like a great pitcher. I think saying good is an understatement. I mean, runner up for Cy Young and NL is great. Um, I I'm excited about what he's going to do this season. So you want me to just talk about like what concerns me? So my concerns going with like our pitching staff is obviously I think Christopher Sanchez and if Zach Wheeler are healthy, we're great. I like the Jesus Luzardo. I'm glad that the Phillies re-upped him. But when you get into like that third and fourth pitcher, Aaron Nola, he pitched great for Italy in the WBC. Hopefully he can carry that over into like the regular season or whatever. And if those guys can play at a high level, throughout the season, I think that can carry us overall. Like I still think the Phillies are like a pennant contender. Obviously I think that they still have a chance to do that. But we're starting with, our pitching staff. I think we have one of the best pitching rotations in Major League Baseball. So if Wheeler comes back, and then I like the fact how they're talking about him, like I think his initial comeback days was like back in May, and now it's like pushed back to like late April. So that's exciting as well. So like if we can come into the season with those guys hitting on all cylinders, I think that we have a good chance this year.
Yes, it's awesome. Drew, how you feeling? Obviously, I know you said before this is like Christmas Day for you, especially apart from your fantasy draft. So, how are you feeling about Chris Sanchez taking the mound for your first game against the Rangers?
Yeah, I'm really pumped. I'm more excited than I thought I would be. It's my favorite day of the year. I just love the pageantry of opening day. I think I will be at CBP for it. Still trying to figure out some
Oh,
logistics,
nice.
but yeah,
Great.
I just love like it's it's just so like it's so fun in that like it's the start of something new, but it's also like I feel like the vibes of winning on opening day are important, but like also it's kind of fun in that like the stress is still low and that it's not like catastrophic if you lose. Like we think back to like Eagles Cowboys last year. Imagine like how mad we would have been if the Eagles lost on that first game on banner night.
Oh
Like
yeah,
ideally they
yeah,
win and I want to win, but if the Phillies lose on Thursday, then we just, play again Saturday and everyone. I just love the pageantry, the, like assistant equipment manager getting like a ovation during the pregame festivities. That stuff is always just fun to me. Yeah, I think Sanchi was definitely the obvious choice, and I think it really is. I think it really is an honor for him. You look at some guys who are, like opening day starters throughout the league. Tariq Skubal, two-time running Cy Young winner, Garrett Crochet with the Red Sox. Like guys like Logan Webb, like Max Fried, and like Sanchez, Yamamoto probably for the Dodgers, and like Sanchez belongs, very much in that conversation there. And I'm more excited than I thought I would be. Do I think they're going to win the World Series? No, but can they win the World Series with this rotation and this level of talent? Like, yeah, they theoretically still can. And like a decade ago, at this point, I don't think we really want to like hear this or think this way because they've just been knocking on the door for so long. But if you think back to like a decade ago, like some guy by the name of like Jeremy Hellickson, who was just like a total like journeyman, was the Phillies opening day starter in 2016. So we have come a long way in a decade, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited just to have them back on every night, as much as they're probably going to frustrate us at times.
yeah.
And
Like pitching is like my favorite part of baseball. I love, you guys know like how like I'm probably too obsessed with Luzardo, and like I know Alvarado was a bad boy last year, and but he's looked good in spring this year, so I'm willing to give him that final opportunity, to behave himself, and just stick to his regular diet and his regular medication or whatever he does. And because we've seen again now that Rojas has been caught with PEDs and stuff, so that's just really not good. And the Phillies are obviously developing a bit of a reputation there, which is not great. But there we are. Yeah, and obviously, Drew, you're 100% right. Like this pitching rotation can win us a World Series, even with, even though on the back end you've got Taijuan Walker and you've got Andrew Painter, and obviously we're expecting high things from Andrew Painter, but we've got to be realistic with Andrew Painter as well. Is obviously you can see that there's flaws there and stuff, and it's still early days for him. But the good thing about that is that we've got a strong bullpen to lean on then in those fourth and fifth start games, where the bullpen could come out and obviously relieve us and get us over that finish line. The concern overall, obviously, every year is the bats. The bats going cold, bats not doing enough. Bryce, Kyle, Trey, Bohm, not getting it done when it's needed, because the pitching, we saw it against the Dodgers, the pitching got us there. The pitchers couldn't have done any more than what was asked of them, so that was, was, thank God we have got that. So just how are you feeling about the pitching rotation and everything?
Sorry, technical difficulties. My phone wasn't fully charged and it started screwing around on me. My bad, boys. Yeah,
No
I think
Still
it's
spring
going to
training for everyone.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for real. I think the starting rotation is going to be phenomenal. I think I heard y'all probably touched on it already, but I think I heard Jack and Spike and Ike talking that Wheeler could probably be back by possibly May now, and that he was going to be pitching against some minor leaguers like this week or something like that.
On Monday. Yeah,
Monday. Okay.
Monday.
I think if Wheeler can get back, man, it's going to be the best rotation in the game, because we've seen what Luzardo's done. They've rewarded him with a nice new contract and everything. I think the rotation is going to be phenomenal. The bullpen's going to be really good. Keller looked good during the baseball classic. What's his name? The closer? Shit, his name's escaping me now.
Duran.
Duran, yeah, that cat, he's going to be freaking amazing this year. You got him with a full season, not just after the All-Star
can't
break.
wait.
He's going to be phenomenal. But I think, man, with a 1-2-3 of Wheeler, Sanchez, and Luzardo, and then seeing what Nola was able to do in the WBC as well, man, you've got nowhere to go but down, to me, it looks like, with these guys. And then Painter, he's looking good. He's developing a new pitch. I know Jack's kind of a little worried about his velocity a little bit here and there. But I think the rotation is going to be great. I really do.
Yeah, yeah,
When you look at
definitely.
the
It's
when you look at the Phillies, like just pitching overall, like their pitching is World Series caliber. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like if you're like just like even like their starters. I mean, obviously Taiwan Walker is like the one like gray spot in the corner. Andrew Painter is like on the younger side. But like if you look at their first four, I mean, like Aaron Nola, I've called him Aaron No Foda in the past, but like having Aaron Nola as your fourth starter, like
I still
just
got
being
my
like
doubts with Aaron Nola as well.
yeah, like just having him as your fourth starter. You know what I'm saying? In the rotation, if Zach Wheeler comes back 100% healthy, is crazy. And then Painter, if he gives you any upside,
Yeah.
and then when you look at the bullpen, when like how you talk about having Jose Alvarado coming back, you got
Yeah.
Duran, Brad Keller, I just feel like from top to bottom they got the best pitching staff, bullpen, and starters in the league, and it's like it's going to come down to the hitting, but we know that's been the issue the past 3 years. Like the
Yeah.
past last year had one of the best pitching staffs in major leagues, so it's like when you look back, it's like. And I know we're gonna get into it, transition here, but we got to be able to hit the baseball.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's all, unfortunately, it's just that stigma that's going to carry us around until it doesn't. You know what I mean? I say it all every year. They're like, we're getting closer to Sixers
Right.
territory. Obviously, the Sixers now are in a completely different thing because they just can't get healthy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's their problem. They can't get healthy, and then they got Daryl Doofed Morey trading away, Jared McCain and what have you, and then he's lighting it up in the with the
Oklahoma.
Thunder, and
Yeah.
yeah, in Oklahoma, and it's just ridiculous. And it's like Spike says, he's probably going to win a title or get very close to winning a title this year, anyway. And so yeah, they're in a different category now, so they're lucky. So the Phillies have got away with it there, but they've got to like Jack said the other day, we gotta win more than one round of baseball. You know what I mean? We've got to win more than 2 games of baseball. We've got to get to that next stage, or otherwise we're forever stuck in this dark zone that we can't get out of. So in terms of like moving on to like the hitting now, then guys, obviously everyone's got different lineup predictions. We've talked about it. They've talked about it in sports media in Philly, on WIP, on other podcasts and radio stations, of what sort of everyone's preferred lineup is going to look like. Now, last year, Rob Thompson was going with a different, going up against righties and lefties. He wanted to do it a bit different, but obviously we've seen in the WBC now, you had Aaron Judge hitting behind Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper was hitting number 2 sometimes. We've talked about it, I think a couple of weeks ago, we talked about it, why can't Bryce try it out? Why can't it be, Trey, Bryce, Kyle Schwarber, you know what I mean? And then, what do we do with the number 4 spot? Because you've got Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott, and Adolis Garcia is looking hot now. So what are your guys' thoughts on how the lineup should look? What would your preferred sort of, hitting order be? Drew, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so for me, I'll give my lineup off of righties because I think, predominantly, like, you're more often than not going to face right-handed pitchers than lefties. I think if some teams are still figuring out their rotations, but I think in like 5 of the first 6 games the Phillies play, I think they're probably going to face a righty. So I have a lot of what you said, Adam, at the top. I have Trey leading off. I have Bryce second. I have Schwarber third. The one flip that I would make where we might have different opinions here is I would put Adolis Garcia fourth. I would just be like, okay, like new guy, like you've had a great spring. You hit 38 home runs a couple years ago. I think you're gonna like this ballpark. You're my cleanup hitter, and go do this, and let's see how it goes. I think we've seen. I don't think Bohm is a cleanup hitter, and I think Cole, if you move him down even like 2 slots to 6 or so, I think Cole just have a little less pressure on him. Can just kind of focus on putting the ball in play with some guys on base. Where I'd have Garcia 4, So I don't love it, but I have Marsh 5, Bohm 6. And then I have, just to split up some lefties, I have Stott 7, JT 8, Justin Crawford 9. And I do think you have some sneaky speed at the bottom of that order. Like even a guy like JT still runs pretty well, where he can, is capable of stealing a base and all. And if Crawford lives up to the hype, you have a lot of guys between Bryson, Crawford, and then Trey at the top who can kind of create some havoc on the base path. So that's what I
that's
do.
what I'm hoping to see.
Yeah.
So I mean, with my lineup, it's pretty much the same as Drew's. I mean, I got Harper in the third hole just because we've been fighting this battle for years. If we're talking about best lineup, obviously Bryce batting second, I think would be the best. But we just know he's not going to do it. He can talk and say they'll do it, but we just know he wants to bat in that third hole. So I have Trey, Kyle, Bryce. I got Adolphus Garcia and batting cleanup, and then I actually have Bohm, Stott, JT, Martian, and Crawford. And it's similar to what Drew was just talking about. There's some sneaky speed on the back end of that lineup. Justin Crawford. Bryson Stott. You got some speedy guys back there on the base paths. Even with Brandon Marsh. Now, what makes me nervous about this lineup is just when you talk about the top end of the lineup. When it goes Turner, Kyle, Bryce. When you look at those three last year, their biggest, not so much Turner, but the two big hitters, Bryce and Kyle, the two biggest issues with those guys that they go cold in key moments. What makes me nervous in this year is Bryce Harper going to be elite? The $1 million, is Bryce Harper going to be elite? Is Bryce Harper going to be able to give us the game that he gave us in the World Baseball Classic, championship when we need it the most? I think he can deliver, but we know the past couple years, Bryce Harper, versus the Diamondbacks, versus the Dodgers last year. I know he had a good, what was it, game 2? Was it game 2 or game 3?
Yeah.
He
Game
played
3 had a good game, but he was pretty quiet overall.
Right. Overall, we need more than one game out the series for Bryce Harper to be, for us to even be considered a World Series contender. Because when you're going up against teams like the Dodgers this year, I know that's the nth degree of what we're looking to compete against. But I think if the Phillies made it to the second round or even the NLCS and they lost, I think that would still be looked at as a successful season. But can we get there with these not hitting the bat well?
That's going to be the biggest thing. If they do have cold streaks, you just got to hope they don't have one at the same time. You hope if Harper goes cold, Schwarber's kind of hot right now, and vice versa. Right. It's same thing with the lineup. I would say I would definitely put Garcia in the 4th spot. I would probably have JT between. I'd have Crawford 9, JT 8, and probably Marsh and whoever else is in left at 7 would be what I'd do. I would flip that around a little bit. And like Drew said, JT, yeah, he's older, but he can move really well for a catcher. And to be, as old as he is, JT's still got some good speed. And that's going to be a big thing at the bottom of the lineup. Can Crawford produce with the bat? He's looked good in spring. The thing we've not hit on yet is how Turner's not looked great. I think he's still hitting below 100 in spring training. And what's up with that? Is Jack going to have to do another standing ovation? Not this jackass lunatic.
You can't go that well again.
We're not doing that. We're not doing.
No, I'm just saying, not this jackass lunatic that stole Jack's idea. This Philly, what's his name, Philly captain, who stole Jack's idea and got a documentary made about him. We know where that came from. And it wasn't from that jackass lunatic. But anyway, I would probably flip that. But I agree with y'all. If the bats do go cold, if Harper and Schwarber do go cold, you just got to hope they don't go cold at the same time.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking of yesterday, because I feel like this was a big discussion point last year, and I feel like I've flipped on it a little bit. Would you guys because obviously the season's going to be judged on the playoffs and all. Would you guys rather win the division and get a bye, or would you rather like play from the jump? Like I'm almost at the point where like give me that 4 seed where you're playing from
Yeah.
the jump. You have the wild card round at home, and you just try to go into the division round with some momentum versus rest, because I think our rotation's deep enough to be able to handle that. I'm just at the point where like I'm over the bye. Like I feel like these guys really rely on timing, and like
Yep.
even if you have to win more games to win it all, I'd rather just play all the way through
Well,
at
that
this
worked. I mean,
point.
in 2022 when they made the World Series,
Yep.
they were a wild.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's
exactly.
just
It worked then.
right. And like I
You've
mean,
seen
in
a lot of
2022 they
teams.
beat some. Yeah, they beat some high level teams. I mean,
Yep.
like they beat the Padres. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Yeah.
Padres were a
The
good team. They
Braves.
had Juan Soto on that team. Like, um, yeah, exactly. Braves. Like, I agree with Drew with that. Like, I mean, I know the goal. Like every sport, basketball, baseball, hockey. Like your goal is to win your division. I know that.
Yep.
But we've seen like the numbers have kind of shown that over the past couple years. I mean, like the top teams have been the ones getting eliminated. The ones that
Yep.
have the bye. And like I
Yeah.
just feel like I do agree. Like baseball is more of like a timing and like how you're feeling in that moment sport. Like in baseball, if you're hot, the hottest team is usually the team that goes. I mean, look at the Diamondbacks versus us. Like they weren't a better team than we were. They go on to the
No.
World Series, but it's like that's because they were hot. Like like they were just the team at that time. Us in 2022, we were the team.
Yeah. Yeah, but sorry, Joe, I like one now. You look at what happened last year, right? Like we were quite hot going towards the end of the season, and then we had the bye, obviously, and they tried to make a big thing of they were doing this inter squad game and what have you, and people went to the Citizens Bank Park to watch the game, and Bryce looked good. I think Bryce hit a home run off Walker Buehler, I think something like Luzardo looked good and all that, but it wasn't like a real, competitive sort of thing. You know what I mean? They obviously still were a bit cold with too
Yeah.
much rest, and it didn't carry over. You know what I mean? The pitching carried over, but the hitting didn't carry on. And I think as obviously as important as pitching is in the playoffs, I think the hitting it could be just above, because obviously the hitting puts the points on the board, and it didn't work for them. They remained cold. It didn't carry over as well. Like Corey said, in 2022, we were a wild card team, and we didn't win the division, and it worked all the way through. It worked for the Diamondbacks, and I think that's what we need. We need something different now. And the Mets, we thought the Mets were going to be good last year. They didn't. They became a disaster, and we were able to keep a steady lead for the division the whole year. But they look like they're going to be good again this year. You know what I mean, on the hitting and pitching side. So we'll see what they like. We'll see how the Braves bounce back. But it's more than likely going to be between us and the Mets. But I don't care about winning the division this year. I'm with you. Like I just want to be hot going into the playoffs. And if we're an 88, 90 win team and we got some good momentum and the timing is good, then let's just ride with that. Just try something different. You know what I mean? Let's not. And even if they win the division again, I hate this shit where they're in the locker room and they're getting pissed and they're getting drunk. And I know it's part of baseball and this is part of, that's what teams do. But to me, you haven't earned that. You haven't earned that until you win the World Series. You know what I mean? If I were them and they do it again this year, I'd be refusing to do it. I would be like, no, let's keep our heads straight. Let's keep our heads in the game. We haven't, every year we're getting knocked out early. We don't deserve it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get pissed in the locker room and what have you. You know what I mean? So I don't know how you guys feel about that. I don't know if that's because that's baseball tradition and that's how it's meant to be. But if I were the Phillies, I would be like, no, I ain't doing that shit until I win the World Series.
So I will say that I do feel like that is more like a fan thing. Like obviously we know celebrating in the locker room really doesn't affect like any aspect of the game. So like me, I really don't mind it. I mean, like it's traditional. Like every team. I mean, the Dodgers do it and they won. So I think it's more of like an optic.
Yeah, I know, with the
Like
Dodgers, the
but
Dodgers.
I mean, I get where you coming from because like when they come out in next series and like they don't play well, like we get pissed off. So I get as a fan that can be frustrating.
Yeah, I think I'm, you guys know I'm like, I'm really, really harsh. So like I'll be like this year as well, especially in the playoffs. I'll try and be positive going into it, but I'll be terrible with my Twitter fingers. But there you go.
Well,
And hopefully
I think what I kind of agree with both of you, but if you're celebrating a wild, say they are in the wild card and they advance, yeah, have a couple beers, celebrate whatnot, but don't don't start throwing all the champagne and stuff around till you make it to the World Series. Yeah, that's something to really celebrate, But I agree with
Mm,
both of you. That's more of a fan thing. These guys, it's 162 games. It's a long ass season. When you do that, yeah, you want to celebrate and cut loose a little bit. But I see where both of
yeah.
you are coming from.
Yeah, it's just frustrating, obviously, in it for us as fans because we're seeing them get worse at that time every year. And like the last 2 years now, they've gone out in the first round, to teams that we should have beaten the Dodgers. We were, I would say we were better than the Dodgers in that game. You know what I mean? It was mistakes obviously that we made. Our batsmen called. The Dodgers hitting wasn't fantastic in that series. When
Yeah,
you look back, we held Otani. We held some of their best guys. We held Mookie Betts. Because our pitching is so strong. And obviously we just let down at the end. So in terms of how we can get better as a team, how they can improve this year, we got young guys coming up now. Obviously we got Andrew Painter coming up. He's won his spot in the starting rotation. Obviously Aiden Miller, we haven't seen him over spring because of the back issues. So he's obviously going to start in AAA. He's back in minor league camp now, getting healthy. I imagine long as he has a healthy start to AAA and he's maybe not necessarily getting a lot of RBIs or home runs, but if he's hitting and he's getting on base, I imagine that they'll want to bring him up relatively soon, maybe in the middle of the summer sometime, June, July, possibly. Obviously, we've got Justin Crawford. We've seen him over spring now, and he's been absolutely electric. He's shown that he can really play centre field. He belongs out there. His timing is great. His step off, he's not missing catches. He's made some really good catches. Obviously in Citizens Bank Park, he's gonna have to be a lot quicker off his feet and things like that, because it's a bigger space for him to cover. But I'm sure that he'll be able to do it. I got lots of confidence in him. And obviously, Otto Kemp is going to be in that left field rotation with Brandon Marsh, the veteran. So Otto Kemp has looked really good over spring training as well. He's hitting bombs, like it's nothing. So hopefully that's going to carry over now. So how do you guys feel about the young guys coming up now, getting their start? They're going to be looking to prove themselves, and could it be the asset that we've been looking for to carry us over into the playoffs? Drew, do you
with
want to lead
Miller,
off?
go ahead,
Go
Drew.
ahead, Justin. You got it.
Well, with Miller, the tough thing about bringing him up is if Bone's having what Jack keeps saying is a contract type season, where would you play Miller? Would you bring him up and let him platoon at second with Stott if Miller does get brought up and he's having a good season, or would you possibly, it's going to be tough if Otto Kemp and Brandon Marsh have that platoon in left field locked down, and say Bohm is doing really well in a contract year, say he miraculously hits 20 home runs out of the 6-hole or wherever they put him. Where would you put Miller at that point? You don't want to see Miller down all season long in AAA if he's playing well, but it's going to be a tough spot to find somewhere to put him as well. I know Jack keeps saying left field after the Bohm breakout season and all this, and they re-signed Bohm. I don't really see that happening, but it's going to be tough if they are firing on all cylinders to bring him up and find somewhere to put him. Because Jack was even
He's got
talking the other
Edmundo
day.
Sosa as well, haven't
Yeah,
you? As
Jack
well.
was even talking the other day about maybe platooning Stott and Sosa at second, and I don't know that I agree with that, but Sosa rakes against left-handed pitching as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Stott thing is a tough puzzle because he's having a great spring, but obviously Sosa as you said really does well against lefties. I just think that's like Bryson Stott, I'm a big Bryson Stott fan in general. I'm still trying to hold on there and stay in that camp. But he was, if you think back to the end of 2023, he had essentially become an everyday player. He was, pitching. He was playing against lefties in the playoffs that season. His like grand slam that everyone talks about against the Marlins was against a lefty. So the fact that we're like 3 years later and he's now potentially a platoon player is kind of a red flag on a little bit on his development to me, where he needs to, he really, I think I would love to see him just like get to a point, and it's nothing against Sosa, where he just forces Topper's hand, where it's almost like you have no choice to play me against lefties, because I think we thought that's the type of player he was going to be, and I just feel like we just obviously haven't seen that for a full season. I do think the left field platoon situation is something that's flying a little under the radar, that could be a little dangerous and a concern a little bit if Brandon Marsh goes cold. Because like Otto Kemp, I was looking at his stats this morning. I don't think he was particularly great against lefties last year. Like he hit the same number of home runs against lefties as he did righties. His like, I think OBP against lefties was in like the low 300s. So So I think that could be a spot for Aidan Miller. And I also just think if Otto Kemp can't, hold his own there when you're facing a lefty, like that could be a really like black hole in the lineup, because we've seen that, obviously Marsh has not been able to do it in the past. So I definitely think that's a concern there.
Agree.
Yeah.
So, go on, Cole.
I mean, like, I'm a huge Bryson Stott fan too. I mean, you guys know that. But like, the thing with Bryson Stott, just like to piggyback off of what Drew was saying, like in 2023, like he was towards the end of the season playing like an everyday player. Like Bryson Stott, the way he hits the baseball, his batting average and all that, like he should be a leadoff type hitter. Like if Bryson Stott could lead off consistently, like I would put him at leadoff, because like I think that helps the top of the lineup.
They have tried it, haven't they? And it hasn't, it's worked out okay, when they've tried it. They just don't do it for long.
Right. I mean, like he's not a huge guy. Like he's not going to hit with a lot of power. Like he might give you like 12 to 15 home runs on a good season or whatever. But like I think like his just batting average of the first half of the season, I think it was like I don't 100% remember, but I think it was like 230 or whatever. But towards the second half of last year, he was hitting like 295. Like I think he's one of those players that he just has to his bat has to heat up. Because like even in 2023, he was a platoon player, and like towards the end of the year, he was a starter. Like so, it's like I think he's just a player that it takes time, and he has to warm up to the game. My guess. I mean, I know that's like a cliche thing to say, but
yeah. Tell me if you guys think this comp is fair. Honestly, I think there's a little bit of Nick Foles with Bryson in that he can get insanely hot at times. When you ask him to do it for a full season, that's when there becomes an issue, when you kind of ask him to take on more responsibility and be the bigger guy. I know that's sounds like a wild stretch, but that to me has kind of been the issue with Bryson.
Right. It's like he's good in his role, but when you ask him to take more, that's a great comparison, Drew. Nick Foles is good when you need him to play 4 or 5 games to get you through a season, but to make him the starter, that's when he tends to have his peaks and valleys.
Yeah. Can't handle so much on his plate.
Yeah, that's always been the issue, and it's just it's. I mean, he's looking really hot right now. You know what I mean? It's just a thing of carrying that momentum over. It's easier said than done. Obviously, the good thing is opening day, like Drew said, there's not a lot of pressure.
And
obviously, it'll be nice.
One thing about Stott was I think you can make a debate he's one of the best defenders on the team. With him at second base, he's one I think didn't he finish? I don't know where he finished in the voting wise, but I know he was a finalist for a Golden Glove for back-to-back years or something like that. He's one of the his defensive value when he plays is tremendous. I personally feel he could play shortstop in spurts for Trey Turner.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think he did a few times last year when Trey was hurt a little bit and stuff,
right.
And maybe that was the year before. and he's looked good. Do you know what I mean? Sosa, when he's there at second base, he's really good defensively. But also, yeah, Bryson Stott, I think, is the better one. But
Right.
but yeah, so obviously, I know it's not a big loss that but obviously, I spoke about it a little bit on Twitter. Rojas has been suspended now, and he can be a fantastic centre fielder when he's in that role. Obviously, he's never been fantastic at the plate. He's always in the ninth spot in the order. He only gets maybe 1 or 2 home runs a season. Rafael Marchand seems to get more than Johan Rojas, and he's hitting quite well in spring training, in fairness to him as well. So obviously we've lost Rojas now, 80-game suspension, similar to Jose Alvarado last year. For PEDs, it's not another good look for the Phillies. Obviously they're probably not going to miss his bat. But obviously, depending on how we're looking at the trade deadline, and like we've said, like just said, how Marsh and Kemp are looking, if Marsh is going cold. I know it's obviously still way too early to be talking about trade deadline, but I just want to sort of like get some ideas of what you guys think of how aggressive do you think we will be this year at the trade deadline? Do you think we're gonna go, I don't know if we'll be super aggressive, because this could be sort of looked at as a building block here, because of the young guys coming up in the lineup. I don't have much faith in Dombrowski. What do you guys think? Do you think they'll try and go for something at left field if there's a guy out there, or if there's, you know what I mean? I know, like I've said to Justin loads of times, how badly I want Duran from the Red Sox, but the Red Sox are going to keep him now. They're not going to, and he was good for Mexico as well, wasn't he, in WBC? So, the Red Sox aren't going to let him go without a hefty price, I guess.
Yeah.
So what's your guys' thoughts? Do you think could happen at the trade deadline?
I think it all just depends on what they're doing, really, like how well the team's playing, because we've still got the lockout looming next year. And you don't know how long that could last. Could it take 20 games off the season? Could it take 40 games off the season? And if it's not looking good, could you lose the whole season? And that's going to play a big part in what they do at the trade deadline. I think, like you said, the bottom of the order with Marsh could become a black hole at times if he's struggling. But Marsh hit really well. Was it after the All-Star break, or like from June on or something
Yeah, from
like
June
that?
on,
He hit
he was
really
pretty
well.
good. Not
Yeah,
good in the playoffs, I don't think, but
not
good in
good
the
in the
regular season.
playoffs. Yeah, but regular season, yeah. So I just don't know if Dombrowski will be willing to pull the trigger on trading an asset to get somebody who could fill that role when you've got when you've got Marsh and Kemp out there in left, just going back and forth between lefties and righties. I don't know. I'd like to see him do something, because, like we've all said, it can become a black hole at times. But I
Depends how
have no
badly they want
idea.
to be a World Series contender this year,
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think, to your point, Justin, like I think a pending lockout can sometimes hurt the buyers at the trade deadline, because
yeah,
let's say, like, I don't know, let's just use like Mike Trout as an example. Let's say he has like a renaissance season and the Angels are horrible, and and the Phillies call up and are like, we'd like to trade for Mike Trout. Can we give you, I'm just going to use an example like Dante Nori or Gage Wood or some like package around that. If those teams who are the sellers like are kind of facing the idea of like a lost season where like those prospects don't get to play and they can't work with them, I think they are typically a little more hesitant to take those guys on. Like, I think I'm trying to remember back to 2021. I think the Yankees made a couple moves, but I feel like it was a quieter trade deadline because everyone knew there was going to be a potential lockout. Now, thankfully, there wasn't, but I think that's the type of thing that could put the Phillies in a tough spot where if you really want a guy, you might almost have to overpay because
yeah.
teams might be less willing to take on just like prospects than they typically would.
For sure, because like you said, Trout is a good example. I like the kid from the Marlins. His name like Kyle Stowers or something like that. Like, I don't know if they would
He's good.
if they would move him or not, but like, I mean, Dombrowski pretty much told us like this season they want the young guys to play. I mean, that's the reason why they moved on from Nick Castellanos. I know that there was more behind the scenes stuff with the Castellanos thing, but like, I mean, like Otto Kemp's going to play, Justin Crawford's going to play, Andrew Painter's going to play. Like, they want the young guys to develop. So I think
Yeah.
this year is kind of be like a half and half year. What was funny about what's funny about the Phillies, and like if I want to like do a comparison with the Eagles, is so like the Eagles they're like very similar. Like if you notice, like Howie, the past couple of years hasn't really made any big trades. He hasn't really made any big signings. Like he's pretty much just been letting his like draft picks play. But the thing that the Eagles have is that they have that championship in their back pocket to where Howie's like,
Yeah.
well, this period we've went to 2 Super Bowls and we won a championship. So now we have to get our younger guys to play. The Phillies don't have that championship to like fall back on to say like, hey, well, we did win a championship 2 years ago. Now it's time to get our young guys to develop. Like they don't have that. So us as fans, we're like, hey, like we still won a championship. Like these young guys are cool, but I still want that, that trophy.
Yep.
Yeah, like
Totally
next
agree.
season is going to be a different story. John Middleton's going to have to decide what he wants because Bryce is
Right.
going to be another year older. Kyle Schwarber's going. I know Kyle Schwarber's extended now, but that top of the lineup are getting older. Alec Boehm is getting older. Bryson Stott's going to be another year older. JT, I mean, look, JT is 35 now, so it's he's going to have to decide if he's going to. I know he doesn't have the money that like the Dodgers and stuff have and stuff, but there's ways and means about it, and you can get there. So I don't know. Yeah, this year is
And
obviously just yeah.
I do think, just like to piggy off like from like one of our earlier pods, like I do think that this season, so like I think most Philly fans went to the season like, hey, we're not going to do much this off season. We're probably going to like the young guys are going to play, and then move on from Castellanos. And then when the Bo Bichette thing came, it's like, oh, like we didn't know this was an opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
oh, Bo Bichette becomes, so you get excited, and then that doesn't happen. So now it's like you're eager to be like, well, now I like you guys are willing to get Bo Bichette. Like now, go do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still can't believe how badly fleeced we got with that. I mean, I don't think I 100% bought into it that we were really going to get it because I was surprised that like Dombrowski was even like offering him that money and stuff and the contract. But then it was becoming realer and realer, and it was just like he's coming. Then all of a sudden, bang! The Mets swooped in and stole him from under us, and I don't know, it might be a blessing in disguise because from what we've seen clips here and there, from other Phillies fans on Twitter, he's not really looking great at third base and stuff. But I don't know, we see what his bat looks like when the season starts. We're going to face him a few times, with him being in the Mets. So that's going to be really, really interesting. Just what's your thoughts on that?
I really don't know that they're going to. Like I said, everything hinges on the lockout. It really does. I think if that you have these high priced players already in place. All right, you've paid Luzardo now, you've paid Schwarber, and you need these young guys to step up and contribute now to kind of even things out. You can't have like the Dodgers, $100 million players or more every position. Like with Kyle, they just signed Kyle Tucker in the offseason. They've got Shohei, they've got Mookie, they've got. I mean, they're freaking loaded, dude. And you have to have, if you're going to compete, you can't compete with the Dodgers when it comes to money. We all know that. The Dodgers are like the Yankees were in the 90s. Nobody would really compete with the Yankees when it came to spending money. Now it's the Dodgers. And part of that is you have to have these young guys step up. You need Painter to step up and be what you thought he was going to be or close to what you thought he was going to be. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Aiden Miller. Same thing with Stott. If Stott can solidify himself this year and have that huge leap year and be the everyday second baseman, that's great. I don't know how many more years he's got on his contract, but that's where you need, because you've already got, you've got JT locked down 3 more years, 45 million or something like that total. Bryce wants an extension. Schwarber, you just signed him, like I said, and you don't know what you're going to have out of Wheeler. They asked him, I think Giglio asked him what his thoughts would be, because he said last year maybe 2 more years, and now after the injury, he's kind of looking back. Do I really want to step back after this? Because it was almost taken away from him. that's where you need to have a good farm system and development system in place to where, yes, you can have these high price guys, but then you get these young guys who aren't taking up so much of your cap, develop and contribute.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I got like a bit of a crazy sort of like scenario, like idea. And I don't, it's not realistic whatsoever. I'm just going off what I've seen and heard around and stuff. The WBC, Aaron Judge was looking really pally with Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, and you kept seeing all these things like, oh, he wants to be a Philly, and they're all getting along so well. And I do think there's a scenario out there where there could be interest to get him some shape or form, and or is it just like a stupid dream, pipe dream, where it's not really realistic, because obviously Aaron Judge, we've seen that like guys don't want the longer contracts these days. They want the short term big money deals where they can opt out. And obviously I don't think the Yankees would want to part ways with him and what have you. But yeah, there's been times where he hasn't really sort of stepped up and met that moment for the Yankees. He didn't meet it in the WBC really. So what would the Phillies say there was interest? What do you think the Phillies would have to do? What would it take to get Aaron Judge?
In a trade,
Yeah, in a trade, yeah.
the whole team.
The whole team, yeah.
I said it was nuts. Like,
Yeah,
Painter, Miller,
Right.
Norrie,
Everyone.
Gagewood.
yeah, I love the idea, but I think that's just Twitter kind of being. I think it's just Twitter kind of being Twitter and trying to run with something, because the Yankees are kind of like an AL equivalent of the Phillies, in that they've had not quite as many people, but they've had some of the same team together. They've been knocking on the door for multiple years. They made a World Series, but just haven't gotten through. So I think they would like burn down Yankee Stadium if Aaron Judge was traded. And of course anyone would want Aaron Judge on their team, but I think there would be a little bit of irony to me in that, like, a Phillies core who, his biggest issue has been kind of baggage and not coming through in the playoffs. Like, you hypothetically bring in another guy who's kind of known to be a great player, but has not always had the best playoffs. So I love
baggage,
I love the idea, but I think it's the same percentage chance as like the Chiefs trade Pat Mahomes. Like, I don't think there's a chance.
If there was, I mean, I know we've been having this conversation for years, but I think if there was like a big name that the Phillies were ever going to go after and at least have a chance to acquiring, I think like we can all agree it's probably like Mike Trout. Just because, I mean, like, he's not the player that he was 3 or 4 years ago. Everyone knows that he's from, the area. And I just think that he's not playing like, I mean, he's dealt with a lot of injuries over the past couple of years. So I just think
it's a health thing with Trout,
I
and that's the problem.
With Trout would be more realistic in like a trade. I mean, like Drew just said, Aaron Judge is like trading for, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I mean, if Josh Allen is Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge is Patrick Mahomes, like vice versa. So I just feel like they wouldn't do it. And I just feel like if it was like a possibility, like we wouldn't have the assets to be able to acquire him.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, so I guess it's just a pipe dream then. But yeah. So before we wrap up and finish, do you guys want to touch on Jack versus Joe? Quickly, how were you guys feeling after Jack versus Joe? I watched it on you.
Drew called it. I mean, this is Notre Dame up here in the top, top right corner. Like he called the Mark Epps signing this week. He called Joe Jack. I mean, who we drafting, Drew?
Yeah, exactly.
Now spin the. Yeah, I've been on a heater. Hopefully, I can continue. Hopefully, I can carry it over to my big fantasy baseball draft draft tomorrow. I'll spin the wheel on an offensive or defensive lineman and see who it and see who it lands on. Yeah, it seems like once Joe made the shot to get it to 3-2. In my head, I was kind of like Joe's got this. You just kind of have to like make the first one and then go from there. Hopefully, obviously, that's just like Twitter being Twitter, but I hope people aren't too mean to Jack and replies. It was supposed to be a fun. It's supposed to be a fun thing. They're both really good dudes, so let's just have a little bit of perspective a little bit. But it seemed
I think yesterday.
Go ahead, Corey.
I just think yesterday, Spike on the show made a good point. He's like, Jack is like the producer and the third mic on the afternoon show, and the head mic from the morning show and one of the top shows in the country, challenging you. It just something like that, what it can do for Jack's career just overall, I think is impressive. I mean, Joe, we know he's quirky, he's silly, he's a goof, but he's still the lead mic on the WIP morning show in Philadelphia. And just to be able to Jack just to be co-head starring with this Joe versus Jack thing over the past 9 months, I think it's just exciting for somebody who is just career is growing and who wants to get to that level of sports commentating and sports radio. I think that just overall grand scheme of things, Jack lost, but I think for his career and what it's done for his person, I think is good.
Yeah, and I know some folks didn't like some of the tactics Joe did, but I did think it was very nice that he plugged Jack's book and told people to buy Jack's book and all. I thought that was a very nice gesture.
It was it was good fun. I think Jack had I think early on when Joe started clawing back, Jack, you could see Jack was getting pissed off and he'd had enough and he just wanted it to end, and he tried to come back a little bit, but I just thought it was really funny because you could just see Ike at the top just screaming all these instructions to Jack, and he was going at the ref, and then all you could see in the corner was a guy in the green jacket. He just is OG Wade with his Jalen Hurts Kelly green jacket. You could see because OG wears the same outfit when he's in. You can see when he's in Chickies and Pete's and he's always in his Jalen Hurts Kelly green jacket. Because spot him a mile, and then he's there just saying hello to everyone. That was really funny. And then at the end when he lost, and you could see just saw Ike just collapse on his back on the floor, just it was so funny, and it was a good fun bit of entertainment. You know what I mean? And like you said, Cole, it is really good for Jack to be going up against the top, the head voice of WIP, I suppose, and Jack's become a really good, trusted voice in Philly on baseball, especially. Like all of us, we all love the High Hopes podcast and stuff, and Jack and James, and we get some really good insight. For me, who hasn't been a baseball fan for very long, so it's really good, for me to hear all these good insights and keep learning and stuff. The more I watch it every year, so it's really good, and. Hopefully we can get Jack back on here with us soon and have a little High Hopes pod. That'd be really cool.
Going back to something you said, seeing OG standing in the corner. One of the funniest things, and no offense, OG, one of the funniest things I heard out of this was when Chuck called the next day and said OG looking like a little black leprechaun over in the corner.
Yeah.
And then I said, I could see him on the Notre Dame sideline with the hat on. Dude, that was one of the funniest things I heard on the radio the day after. No offense, OG, I love you, but damn, that was funny, man. I swear it was.
Yeah, them two will never stop taking shots at each other, OG and Chuck.
Overall, I don't know if they will, but I do think obviously this was an extreme because it took longer due to Joe's body breaking down on him at his elderly age. But I do think that this overall. An event if WIP they always do the great events, but if they continue to be next year Hugh versus Ike or James Elliott versus James I do think that's a cool, and it brings in engagement through the and stuff like that.
And I told them if they kept doing something like this, with what I think they gave away 500 tickets, and somebody said there was probably 350 there, maybe, if you did do something like this, it would be a boom for Eagles Autism Foundation. Like, you could
Yeah.
sell tickets to some of these things,
Or
and you
even
could
like the
do a lot
Travis
of
Mannion.
good. Yes, the Travis Mannion Foundation, something like that. You could
Yeah.
make a
I need
big
to see,
dent in some things selling those tickets, man.
I need to see Elliott in the in a field goal kicking contest. Joe versus
Yeah,
Elliott field goal kicking contest.
yeah. That well,
Oh my God, yeah.
Joe's leg might come off trying to kick a
Bro,
field goal. I'm afraid.
Elliott swears that he's like, hey man, I can kick it.
Yeah,
Well,
I think he won it. I think
he
the media
won.
does, like
Yeah.
the beat writers do a competition every summer, and I think he's
Yeah.
won it a couple times.
He's
Oh,
won
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so Elliott was a soccer player in high school. So yeah, Elliott can kick the shit out of a ball, probably.
Yeah. And I want to see if Elliott can hit the home run as well, because he keeps saying he can hit the
That
home run
ain't
as well,
happening.
doesn't he? So
well, he couldn't,
ain't
he couldn't
happening.
even hit Jack. He couldn't even hit Jack a couple years ago when they actually did do the
Yeah.
event.
Yeah. But yeah, there we go then. I'll have to wrap it up there, guys. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, probably like April sometime, and we'll check in on the Phils, see how they're doing. Obviously, we'll recap the draft to see what the Eagles did in the draft, because obviously Sidney Brown was moved on yesterday.
Yeah,
So
forgot
Crash
about that.
Bandicoot has been, he's been traded away, and yeah, lots of big things ahead for Howie in the draft now. And opening day is here next Thursday. It's really exciting. The Phils are going to be off and running, and it's a long season ahead. There's going to be a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of exciting moments, and can't wait for it just to be watching the games in the summer with a nice cold beer and stuff. And it's going to be that's just what's brilliant about baseball and stuff. So so thanks guys for hopping on again with me a bit earlier this morning. Really appreciate that. So yeah, we'll be back in a few weeks' time, and yeah, go Birds and go Phils.
Mm-hmm. Go
Love
Phils,
y'all,
guys.
man.
Go Phils, go Birds.